Look, against all odds, Will Smith is the talk of the town again. He's got a hit movie. He just debuted a new song at the BET Awards. Almost makes you forget about the slap at the Oscars, doesn't it? But not quite. Today on the podcast, Will Smith and the politics of the celebrity comeback. I'm Elamin Abdul-Mahmoud. This is Commotion. If you don't mind, let's get things started with this.
You are in the smoke and the fire, tightrope on a wire. I see you broken and tired, and all your hope is expired. You're just done with the chains and the games and the shame, and the world is insane. All the pain from the flames that you walk through, with no one to talk to, but ghosts that'll haunt you and thoughts that'll taunt you.
That's You Can Make It by Will Smith. He debuted the song this past weekend at the BET Awards. You should know that this is his first new song in 7 years. Look, between this and the movie Bad Boys Ride or Die that came out a few weeks ago, I do think it's time to talk about Will Smith. I've heard a lot of people talk about how this summer feels like a big comeback for him. And we got to talk about the slap, because ever since he slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars 2 years ago, Will has kind of been trying to win audiences back. Bad Boys was a hit. He's wanted back on the BET stage. We got to talk about the politics of this comeback, or this comeback attempt. Jackson Weaver is here. Marlon Palmer is here. What's good, y'all? How y'all doing?
So much.
Great. So much.
Everything's
good. I love all of this for us. Okay, Marlon, I'm going to start with you and then I'll go to Jackson. Maybe it's good to start by asking about your relationship to Will Smith. What does he mean to you, Marlon?
He is my father. He raised me from, 5 to 15. Like, you're talking coming home from school. I have my TV schedule. You got to watch Passions. You got to watch Simpsons. And then, boom, Fresh Prince every single day.
Yeah.
And, it shaped a lot of my personality. I enjoyed seeing him just gain more success outside of that arena, especially learning what he did for rap in the early days, if the boycott and the Grammy and stuff. Like, he's just a larger than life figure. I think he should be an inspiration to a lot of people. He's someone that seems to only want to inspire and bring joy and peace to other people, except for Chris Rock. And that is what I enjoy about Will Smith the most. I think he's just great.
Yeah, the notion of him being your father, he's many of our fathers, man. I mean,
absolutely.
Between 1996 and 2006, this man, it was like a run like Jay-Z. Like, it was just like every year Will Smith owned the summer. Every year Will Smith owned your TV. Jackson, what does he mean to you?
I mean, I don't know how much you go out west, but I grew up in Vancouver, and I was the only black person in Vancouver, it felt like. And then on my TV, I think I was the only one, but on my TV, I could watch the amazing Will Smith. And I watched Bad Boys 2. I'm not kidding. The year that it came out, I think I was 11 or 12. In a 2-week span, I watched Bad Boys 2 16 times.
That's called taste.
And it was
taste.
That's amazing every single time. And I think the first CD I ever bought was Wild Wild West. And those two things shaped my cultural understanding to this day.
Jim West.
No, I mean, he's foundational to black people, and particularly black men of a certain age, and I say this including myself. Look, off the top, we played this new song, right? We played You Can Make It. It's a song that he performed at the BET Awards this weekend with the Sunday Service Gospel Choir. And I'm going to read some of the lyrics for a minute. I promise I won't do the Will Smith voice, even though I really want to do the Will Smith voice. But let me just read you some of the lyrics. The harder they fall, the harder the fall, the higher you soar. God opens a window when the devil closes the door. Believe me, they tried to bleed Will Smith. In the rear view, I see adversity was a gift. Marlon, this is like a black Tony Robbins. Like, how do you feel about how this song fits in, with Will Smith's general arc?
It's very consistent, although he has ramped it up a bit with the Christianity.
You don't say.
We know him as a Scientology. We don't know him as a Christianity.
There were long-time rumors that he was associated with this Church of Scientology, but in terms of him talking about God, I think that is new.
Fairly new, right? Yeah. And I mean, I think it's needed in a time like this for him. There's no redemption like a religious redemption. And I think that he's doing what he always does. He's just choosing to inspire in the face of adversity. We don't really see him have these public falters, if you will.
Sure.
So it's like to see him try to bounce back, and in the way he's choosing to do so, it hasn't been defensive, which I liked. He hasn't ever been like, well, Chris did this. I see like everybody else being like on the side of, oh, well, Chris shouldn't have been doing this and Chris shouldn't have been doing that. I haven't seen any pushback from Will. It's just been like, you know what? I accept my L. I'll do what I need to do to win you guys back. And I like that attitude.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because look, the slap happened and people forget that like literally minutes later, he was up on stage, you know, delivering an acceptance speech because he won for King Richard that year, which was just a very odd dynamic. And then the last couple of years, he's just kind of felt like he's been trying to make up for it, kind of, you know, trying to make it not the first thing that you think about since the slap happened. How would you describe the past couple of years of Will Smith, Marlon?
It was rocky at first because they made him do that slave movie first that nobody saw.
Oh God,
that seemed like bad. Will
it's called Emancipation? Is that what that's
Emancipation? Yeah. And I get it. He's trying to find inspiration in that. But, brother, we do not want to watch that anymore. It is over. Read the room. But since then, I think he's focused more on his family, more on himself. And I'd love to see him, showcasing Willow blossoming as an artist. Jaden, obviously, we already know what he's capable of. And, like, just seeing this whole comeback from him, he's always been a people pleaser. So I think that slap really freed him up from all this, I need to be perfect. We've seen that in little things like relationships, couples on YouTube who try to put up like this facade that there's like perfect house. They don't argue, they don't do anything. And then all of a sudden the channel's gone. They're divorced. The kids are split. So it's like, it's good to see somebody have some humanity that you once thought, man, they do nothing wrong, and still strive for perfection after that.
I saw you sort of nodding in agreement, Jackson. I want to come back to you in just a moment, but I'm interested in this idea, Marlon, of a freer Will Smith. Like, do you sort of see the way that he's moving now and go, this man is thinking less about what the public thinks of him? Is that your impression?
Absolutely. I see it in the way that he talks. He used to almost, it was getting annoying at one point where he turned like the most mundane question into, just sit there and look at me for 5 minutes. That's what this. And it's like you're making a big moment out of something very little. Now I see him just going into the jokes. He's cursing more, like just little things in his character that you don't normally see. He seemed much more advertiser friendly pre-slap than he does now.
I also have to say, Jackson, it's been very interesting to see the kind of media that he's done post-slap, like particularly in preparation for, coming out with Bad Boys. Will Smith on Sway in the Morning is not a thing that I would have thought I would see anytime soon, but he's doing black media. He's sort of returning to the black media that sort of showed him love, which is, to me, that there's a through line between that and also showing up at the BET Awards. Do you want to maybe talk about how this Bad Boys movie and like this current press run has kind of been an extension of how Will Smith wants to be seen?
I mean, I might undercut a bit about the evolution of Will Smith.
Okay, go off.
And like, I 100% agree. This is a guy that has been a people pleaser, but I think it's because of like how he came up and when he came up and the things he needed to overcome. Like he's comes out with like Parents Don't Understand. That's like a cheesy rap song, but it's at the time when you like connected any rap star with scary black person. And he is becoming a sort of star that you can get in your living room. He does Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That's something that you don't really see as Americana, as like this black person coming into American living rooms. All of the articles around the time when it was premiering were scared of him. He does Independence Day. He's like kind of the first really big black action hero. So he's having to do these things and like moderate his public perception to like fit into a white cultural landscape. And I do see a little bit of evolution, but I still see, this is a guy who's making things that can fit into every sort of scope. This song is inoffensive. Most of the stuff he comes out with is inoffensive.
He's a big tent guy, right? He's starting to sort of include everybody in the big tent.
Donald Glover kind of called him out too at the BET Awards. He's like, I got the same amount of Grammys. I have more Grammys than Will Smith, but like fewer the BET Awards than Sam Smith. So I think he's still a little on the outskirts.
I think that was more of a shot at BT than Will Smith.
But it's like they're using him as an archetype.
Go ahead.
The butt of the joke is because he's not, in that tent as much.
But you want to talk real quick about this new Bad Boys movie, because I do think it's a kind of an extension of how he wants to be seen, and I don't know if you even enjoyed the new Bad Boys movie, Jackson. You want to talk about it?
I hated the new Bad Boys movie. I'm not ashamed to say it. I think I'm the only. If you look at the critical reception of the Bad Boy movies, it is insane. They're like, the first Bad Boys, like, I don't know, around, I'm like going to make up numbers a little bit, but it's something around like 40% positive on Bad Boys 1, then like 20% on Bad Boys 2, then it's like 80 and then like 90 or something on Bad Boys 3 and 4. This is a movie, though, that he's doing, like some content moderation mediation. He's coming back. There's that like pseudo slap here to kind of make a joke of what he's
he gets slapped in the movie when he's having
Will's a slapper though. Why are we pretending like Will's not a slapper? Hitch. There's that Spanish dude on the red carpet. Backhand. Wow.
He does slap. He has slapped people a lot in film. That's true.
This movie is, him coming back into the good graces of, his audience, and he's doing the jokes that people love. And I think it works. But for me, it's too constructed. The kind of character he plays in this movie is totally separate from the character that he's in the past Bad Boys, where he was this like suave, sexy, like devil may care kind of guy. This one, he has panic attacks. He's trying to like understand his relationship to his family, everyone around him. And it feels like it was molded specifically so we could rehabilitate Will Smith, the person.
Okay, I got a minute left, Marlon. The idea of rehabilitating Will Smith, the person, is that even possible? Like, I want to ask you if the term comeback applies to Will Smith here, or is he actually like, does he not even need to do this because he's proven he's bankable and still likable?
I think it depends on what community you validate in the comeback.
Woo!
I think if you talk to black people, he never left. If you talk to people outside of the black community, then you might get mixed opinions. So it all depends on what his goal is, who he deems fit to entertain and to get that validation from. Right now, it just looks like he's back at his base. He even said, "I'm home." Yeah. You know what I mean? When he was at the BET Awards. So it's like, I think he's decided who his base is and who he's chosen to validate his success going forward.
Jackson, literally 30 seconds. Does the term comeback apply here?
It does apply. It's working well. Bad Boys is doing great despite my dislike. And I think I agree. Will Smith is great. I just think that he's trying his best to be everybody to everyone. I like him, but we'll see if the rest of the world agrees.
Yeah, I'm on board with Bad Boys 4. I see that Jackson Weaver is not, but listen, we can't agree on everything, Jackson. We got to leave it there. Jackson Weaver, Marlon Palmer.
It was a Lay moment. It was, that's the one. That's what got him.
I appreciate both of you guys being here. Thank you for your time, y'all.
Thank you.
Of course. Marlon Palmer is a comedian, a podcaster, and hosts a morning show on Flow 98.7 in Toronto. Jackson Weaver is a reporter at CBC's Entertainment Unit. I'm Elamin Abdul-Mahmoud. This show is called Commotion. Hey, if you're listening on a podcast app right now, can you just take a moment to give us a follow? We would really appreciate it. And you can also find us on Instagram, where we share some of our favorite clips of the show. That's at Commotion CBC. All right, let me just say, you might have heard of AI book companions. Basically, they're there to answer any questions that you might have while reading a book or a play. Think of it like Sparks Notes, but AI. Now there's a company called Rebind. It's attempting to take the AI book companion idea a step further. Have a listen to this.
Hello, I'm Darren Brown. Welcome to Marcus Aurelius' Meditations on Rebind.
Reading can be intimidating because sometimes we feel like we should always be immediately understanding.
We read alone, but with Rebind, you don't have to anymore. You'll be joined by experts who are going to serve as a companion as you read this book and really help you to dig deep.
So what you just heard there is acclaimed essayist Roxane Gay, journalist Chloe Cooper-Jones, and illusionist Darren Brown in this promo trailer for Rebind. There are some high-profile voices join that app's roster of AI book companions. That roster includes Margaret Atwood, Deepak Chopra, Lena, Denham, all there to just answer your questions and hang out as you are reading a book. They'll answer your questions about the book that you're reading. Well, Laura Kipnis is an academic and culture critic. She wrote about all of this for Wired. Laura has also signed on to be a Rebind book companion herself. When I spoke with Laura, she started out by telling me more about Rebind.
Okay, I'll do my best. So they are taking books that are out of copyright, meaning classics, and then they're asking people, pairing people with a book that they would be likely to comment on. So like Margaret Atwood is doing Tale of Two Cities. So as I understand it, what happens is that you, the rebinder, like me, record 12 or so hours of commentary on the book that you've decided to, engage with. And then as the reader uses the app and reads the book, kind of in the background, there's the AI version of the recordings, and the reader can ask questions and have conversations with the commentary that somebody like Margaret Atwood has recorded.
Right.
So it's kind of like you're in conversation with Margaret Atwood as you're reading Tale of Two Cities.
So I'm sitting there and I'm reading this book, and then I'm sitting next to Margaret Atwood because when I'm using Rebind, and she's telling me, hey, I read the same book and I got some thoughts about it. That's the vibe here.
Well, but it's more of a conversation because what they're asking the reader to do is to kind of like make notes and ask questions and engage. So it's more of an active process than a passive one. You're in like this active conversation.
Okay, so I mentioned that you signed up to be a part of Rebind yourself. So AI Laura Kipnis is going to tell me about Romeo and Juliet. Can you just give us a sense of like your human contribution to the creation of this AI version of yourself that's going to talk about Romeo and Juliet?
I like the use of human there. Thank you. So it was for the beginning. What interested me was such a weird thing to be asked to do because I wrote a book a long time ago called Against Love, a Polemic. So my qualifications, my expertise on romantic tragedy is having written this pretty like anti-romantic book that was actually people thought it was this very pro-adultery book. It was against domestic monogamy. So it was like almost a perverse choice to ask me to do Romeo and Juliet. And I'm not a Shakespearean. As I say in the Wired piece, I actually did date a Shakespearean a long time ago who used to say that Shakespeareans weren't that smart. Like he thought they were sort of the bottom rungs of academic intelligence. So that made it a little less intimidating for me to take on Romeo and Juliet. I mean, I never had a Shakespeare course in college. I went to art school.
Yeah.
So I, set about reading this book, this play incredibly carefully. And then, talking about some of the themes that I saw emerging, which were, I'm not an expert, but they were things that interested me, like the homoeroticism or the, does love at first sight last? Or what does it mean to get married at 13? So I was engaging in the play, just from my own kind of sensibility.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this roster, right? Margaret Atwood, Roxane Gay, Deepak Chopra, Lena Denham, they're all reportedly on board to be AI'd for this Rebind app. In this piece for Wired, you said, you sent Lena Denham some questions about just like her decision to get involved in this. What did she tell you? What did Lena say?
I talked to her by email, and I also talked to the author John Banville, the Irish author, and I asked them both if they had concerns about being cloned. And Lena said that, our images and our voices are not our own anyway. Basically, we're all being cloned all the time. And John Banville said something even more interesting, I thought, because he said as an author, there is this kind of alternative version of yourself that you're putting out there into the world that like you're sort of already a clone of yourself. So neither of them had any concerns about it. And I guess, for myself, I thought, well, I'm kind of nihilistic or maybe fatalistic about the role AI is going to play. Like, I can't say that I'm any big proponent of it, but I thought, well, if we're all going to perish, we might as well perish reading the classics.
I mean, listen, you're an academic, you're a culture critic, first and foremost. How much of the decision to be a part of Rebind was about sort of seeing the writing on the wall and saying, AI is going to be a part of the future. I might as well get involved here?
That was exactly it. I thought this was the most like innovative, creative, humanistic application of AI that I had seen coming along. And when I went and interviewed the founder, John Dubuque, I had no acquaintance with AI before that. And he said, oh, he was using it all the time on his phone, just in place of Google. And I started using it. And I found it incredibly helpful. I mean, like just to ask questions about history. The other day I was reading something about the Crusades and I thought, wait, what are the Crusades? You know, what happened there? And so I asked AI and it summarizes, you know, you have to decide whether it's an accurate summary, but it just summarizes the information that's out there on the web.
Right. What I like about this is that you decided to get involved saying, well, at a certain point, I can't really avoid this thing, so I'm just going to do it. But do any of the worries that are out there about AI, you know, occur to you at all? Like, are you at all worried about like what an AI version of yourself might say? Is that something that you're thinking about?
So I think in terms of the Rebind AI, they're just taking the commentary that you yourself have recorded and kind of remixing it. So like if a reader asks a question, you know, like, was Romeo, you know, really sincere about Juliet, for example? You know, the AI will search for where I talk about Romeo and his character and kind of combine what I've already said into an answer. So It's kind of a closed universe there. And as I understand it, if they take stuff off the web, like if somebody asks a question I haven't answered, like, you know, what year did Shakespeare get married? They'll take that off the web, but it'll be identified in the commentary as, you know, what the source of it is.
I like the idea of it being a closed universe. We keep talking about how AI is going to change all these different industries. I think like one of the easiest ways to see it at work is in fact education. You know, we're talking about the companion apps like Rebind, but also like M-Dash. But this kind of stuff could really change the way that we approach teaching. Listen, you are an instructor yourself. You know, what do you have any concerns that come to mind as you think about this maybe transitional period of incorporating AI into our lives?
Well, the reality is that academic labor in particular, educational labor, is already incredibly devalued. I mean, in that, I think, you know, if you want to be political about it as a function of like the neoliberalization of the university, you know, tenure is disappearing, academic freedom is disappearing. So, I mean, I don't have like great optimism about the future of higher education. And, you know, elementary education has been devalued forever. The labor is undervalued. So I'm not an optimist about any of this. You know, to the extent that AI can help the educational enterprise, that's good. But I mean, I think there are political fights about labor issues that have to continue alongside those applications.
Do you see AI, the people who embrace AI, sort of carving out a different path than the one that, you know, traditional education would sort of allow you to engage in, do you think? Or is it too early to tell?
Yes, too early. And, you know, some people are optimistic about it. The techno-utopians have been long optimistic about it. I am not, partly, as I say, on political grounds. And what I liked about Rebind was, as I say, you know, there's this kind of, you know, preservationist approach that they're taking to culture. Yeah. And in some ways, it seems to me that that's the best that we can do at this point. But I mean, as I say, alongside the political issues involving labor, and, you know, I'm also somebody that thinks regulation of all of these industries is something we should be looking into, including, you know, social media and all these technologies, you know, should be probably made into public utilities.
Well, Laura, I got to say, with every conversation about AI, I'm always mindful of the fact that, like, this is the beginning of the conversation. I'm not anywhere near the end of it. In the meantime, I got to say, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Laura Kipnis is a culture critic and professor of media studies at Northwestern University. She was in New York. The Rebind app will be available later this year. That is it for the podcast today. Listen, tomorrow we are talking about this year in music. Yes, we're talking about Beyonce and Taylor and Ariana, but also it has been a summer of Charlie XCX and Chappell Roan, so there's a lot to talk about. We will see you then. My name is Elamin Abdul Mahmoud. This show is called Commotion. Have a good day.